Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we're going to explore the many highs and lows and the valleys of life and death, aka the season 13 premiere of NCIS Stop the Bleeding. So the episode picks up a few minutes after where the finale left off, and it's Gibbs being wheeled into the surgical ward of the ship with Teagues and Tony by his side. And Mike Franks is there, which probably isn't a great indicator of Gibbs's health. So then the man of the hour, Cyril Taft, played by John Cryer, walks in and just starts projectile vomiting exposition everywhere. So then this guy's basically going through his entire stand-up routine, and Gibbs remains the way that I wish I was through all of Taft's lines, unconscious. And then Taft's talking to Tony, and he's like, Gibbs is lucky he has friends he cares, but he's even luckier that I care. Because if you didn't care, you would just drop his body into the next passing whale, right? The surgeon motto, you're lucky I give a shit. And then the new theme song, season 13, season of change, turn up with some badass shots of McGee and Vance and some long, luxurious locks from Gibbs, which I'm not sure about. But I mean, there's like this gorgeous shot of Emily Wickersham in there, so right now I'm feeling it. So then there's the scene from one of the sneak peeks, and it's basically everyone in the squad room finding out that Gibbs was shot. So then everyone's in a tizzy, like, oh, what about the boy? What about this? What about that? And then Ducky's the only one that's like, hey, so like, how's Gibbs? I heard he was like shot or something. And then Mike Franks is there and is like, Proby, look at us. Man, life's rough. And then he's gone. Like, for the rest of the episode. Mike Franks. DiNozzo's in the corridor of the ship like, God, I hate me. And then he just, like, blames himself for everything that's happening, which, as we know from every other time that DiNozzo tears himself down, that's good. He seems to cope really well with that. My hope is that this time he'll work through it instead of being like, well, I didn't become an alcoholic, so that's good, I guess. DiNozzo wants to stay, but Vance is like, nope, get on the case, son. And he says we owe Gibbs that much, which is like a interesting diction choice with the we. So I'm hoping we'll talk more about that and Vance's personal involvement in Gibbs's life and well-being, aside from just being the director. And then we're down in autopsy with the whole remainder of the crew that's still at NCIS, and they're all watching their phones for any kind of alert as to what's happening with Gibbs. Poor Jimmy Palmer has his alarm go off that reminds him to take his daily digestive enzyme, and Bishop shuts him down cold. Cyril Taft can perform 10 soliloquies while Gibbs is on the operating table. But God forbid Jimmy Palmer tries to pop a vitamin. And then everyone's like, oh, Gibbs has his own Ducky. Except when Ducky talks, he's not performing over a live body. But I understand the reasoning, and it's a nice sentiment. So after 13 seasons, we finally see a visual of Gibbs's broken heart. For like a really long time. So then as usual, My Girl starts playing and takes us into an entire different universe. I love it when we're in these alternate NCIS universes, like where Gibbs is in his own mind, or where things are kind of not the norm, like where he's sitting there and the music is playing in the background and none of the other team can hear him because it's all happening in his head. It's such a good atmosphere and tone and a good plot line that's happening. The wall of pictures is never explained. It's more just like a wall of sound bites. Like, they show a picture of Shannon, and there's a soundbite from Shannon. They show a picture of Dorney, and then there's a soundbite of Dorney. Like, that's what's happening here, and I guess it's just him reflecting. And then Miley Cyrus shows up to help him get his life together. It's so sweet for a second. Gibbs is looking at Kelly, and he's like, I just want to look at you. And Kelly's like, wow, you got old, Dad. And then Gibbs wants to be like, hey guys, look at my dead daughter. Because that's normal. Strange. The team is gone. It's almost like this is a dream or something. And then Kelly is low-key in for the kill because Gibbs is like, what's happening? And then Kelly's like, we're not staying. Kelly takes him back to one of the scenes, one of the flashbacks of him and Kelly and Shannon on the beach. It's one of my favorites. I think it's so sweet and it's such, atmosphere, aesthetic, plot, heart, adjectives. Kelly, I think, as always, is kind of a manifestation of whatever Gibbs is thinking, and Gibbs is in a dark place. Gibbs and Kelly are standing on the beach watching the memory play out. Kelly's like, you don't have good days anymore, which is, I'm assuming, what Gibbs is thinking, and I think this really plays into what we were told, that this is going to be a darker season. And then Kelly's like, you know what? We need to focus on the future. And then in the real world, Gibbs starts kind of letting go. We get this shot of one of Gibbs's blood vessels just like bursting into a surgeon's face. Who was the surgeon? I don't know. What just happened? I don't know. I don't know. And there was like gore sound effects. I accidentally stumbled into the cannibal holocaust or something. It was intense for like 3 seconds. Speaking of the surgeons, Cyril Taft is still talking to all of these surgeons, and these surgeons have personalities, and he just keeps introducing backstory and backstory. At first I was just really confused as to why it was here. But maybe, just maybe, spin-off bait? We're back in the flashback, and Gibbs has another heartfelt moment where he's like, I miss you and your mom. And then Kelly's like, we never really left. We've been trapped in this world of terrible green screen for 10 years. And then Kelly leaves us with the parting message, don't give up. And you know what? It's heartwarming and heartfelt and inspirational. Mike Franks, take some notes. So that's the first third of the episode. And then we start the second third and we're off to the races. Gibbs is back. He has long hair, he's walking around, he's wearing a suit, and life is moving on. And we get kind of a taste of some of the familial relationships that we typically get more of in situations like this. Like Bishop hugs him, and there's a recurring joke about how many people sent him fruit, which, alright, okay. We get to see it more later on when Abby comes in and is like, Gibbs, 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 in her Wednesday-est attire. And that's what I like to see. They can't tell Gibbs anything about the case, and Vance is like, you shouldn't be here, and Gibbs is like, never stopped me before. Long story short, they put him on desk duty. Tony and Teagues are in Shanghai. We get some interesting snippets there, like Tony's kind of fluent in Mandarin all of a sudden, and also Teagues reminds him a lot of Dorney. Gibbs calls Tony, and Tony's like, yeah, boss, I got it. I'm on my own now, and just kind of shuts him down, and it's awkward, which we'll be leading into in future episodes, which I'm so excited to see and talk about. So then Gibbs goes off the record by going to interview a suspect at a prison and remains calm, cool, and collected by stabbing the man in the hand with a pen, proving for once and for all that the pen is mightier than the sword, especially when you're shanking someone with it. Back at NCIS, there's a plot twist of sorts that basically wants you to think that Dorney was involved with the whole situation because one of his laptops was linked to something in North Korea. Meanwhile, Vance finds out that Gibbs stabbed someone, and Gibbs is like, oh, my pen. Is that where I left it? Yes! Gibbs' humor is the best! And then that mood's just killed when the guy turns out to have died. It's originally set up like a suicide, and then it's revealed that the calling killed him. Teagues and Tony find a warehouse full of teenagers working with the calling, and they're like, And then the teenagers use that time to set up a bomb. You snooze, you lose. Teagues and Tony follow Luke up to the roof, and then Teagues sees him standing on the ledge and is like, Luke, oh. And then he basically thinks that he killed Gibbs, and then Tony's like, well, there's only one way to find out, so you should probably get down from there. It turns out that Bud tried to frame North Korea because he's a gamer and this is all a game to him, and modern technology is so weird. And then everyone's freaking out, and one of the guys on the screen is like, give me the president. Because you can do that. Same way that McGee can just disarm a bomb, just whatever. And so then DiNozzo finally corners Bud, and before this man can deliver one more over-the-top line of dialogue, Tony's like, nope. Tony shoots him in the knee and the chest, effectively killing him in the way that Gibbs was almost murdered earlier on. Back at NCIS, Teagues comes in and says her final goodbyes, and it's a really sweet, genuine moment because she's like, the thing that's comforted me these past few months is knowing that Dorney had really good friends like you. And then we're right on back to black because Tony walks up to Gibbs and is like, do we have a problem? And Gibbs is like, I don't know, do we have a problem? And it's very awkward and tension-filled and sassy. This intense, complicated relationship between Gibbs and Tony, something that we really need to talk about. I'm very excited to see play out. And then Gibbs meets Taft at the diner, and at first it's very lighthearted, and then it goes into more intense lines about how Taft's child died, and that's why he throws himself into his work the way he does and helps people. And then we touch on something we haven't really touched on in a while, if at all, which is Gibbs happy to be alive? Taft asks the question, he says, I have patients that revere me for saving their lives and some that hate me for it, which are you? And to be honest, I really don't think Gibbs knows. I think this retrospective will end up being a great point in Gibbs's life and for Gibbs's character. So that's season 13, the season 13 premiere. At first, it wasn't my favorite, but I think this episode serves as a setup to a lot of really, really great plot lines down the road. I think this is a fine wine episode. I think it'll get better with time. The ratings were good. The ratings were up a couple million from the finale last season, which is great. But the only thing is that it was dead silent afterwards. Typically there will always be people on Facebook that'll say, great episode tonight, I loved it, or this show's just not the same as it used to be, or when will City come back? So basically I want to know what you guys think. I'm very, very interested in your opinions, and I can't wait to talk to you guys for the spoilers and theories video for NCIS Season 13 Episode 2, Personal Day. Farewell.